Hey there, Senior Rehab Podcast listeners. I'm Tally Spaceman.
And I'm Erin Carey. All right, today's article is entitled, Older Adults Pay an Additional Cost When Texting and Walking, Effects of Age, Environment, and the Use of Mixed Reality on Dual Task Performance. It was published in the Physical Therapy Journal in 2018.
Okay, I like. It's new.
Okay, it gets better. Tali's going to love this, specifically because the three authors are all Israeli professors at the University of Haifa. I know you went to University of Tel Aviv, but still.
It's fine. I still, the University of Haifa, especially in gerontology, have some amazing work.
Yeah, it seems like it.
The head of the department was a teacher of mine. He taught me gerontology. So I have a little bit of bias, but they do great research and kudos for them.
So the first author, her name is Ther Krasovsky. She is a PhD and a postdoc in the Department of Physical Therapy at the University of Haifa, and she's also in the pediatric rehab department at Tel Shomer, where Tali also used to work. Do you know her?
No, because I didn't used to work in pediatric rehabilitation, but we probably have the same friends.
Yeah.
6 years ago, when I was applying for my first PT job, I really wanted to work in that department in peds rehabilitation.
Really?
In Tel Shomer. And I was sitting with my resume outside of the head of PT there, just sitting there with my resume for about like half an hour, and everybody said, she's in a meeting, but you can just leave it on her desk. And I'm like, no, I want that job so much that I want to be there when I submit my resume, and I want her to see me, and I want to talk to her. I feel like it shows more of a serious mind.
You want to stalk her?
No. It's not like I went after her to the bathroom.
Maybe you should have
this time. No, and then I said to myself, I'm stubborn and I have a lot of free time because I'm out of school. It's the best combination to achieve something. Yeah. Being stubborn and have a lot of time. I did not get that job.
Oh, not stubborn or free time enough.
No, I ended up taking a bunch of kids with special needs to a summer camp in the US.
Oh, that's sweet.
So it was, yeah. But I still have a lot of things a lot of good emotions for that unit. I have friends that work there. It's awesome.
Nice. So yeah, just so the listeners are oriented, Tel Shomer is a hospital, a rehab hospital in Israel. Is it in Tel Aviv?
It's not in Tel Aviv. It's close to Tel Aviv, not in Tel Aviv. It is the biggest hospital in the Middle East.
That's right. It's not just a rehab hospital. I remember this now because that's where when there are all sorts of traumas and stuff in Syria and Jordan, they go to Tel Shomer.
They usually go to a hospital in the north called Ziv, and they do amazing work. Mm-hmm. If there's special surgeries and traumas and stuff like that, they might be choppered to Tel Shomer, but mostly for that work, Ziv Hospital does an amazing work. They're basically on the border, and everybody there said, you know what, it made us better trauma specialists.
I believe it, yeah.
Because so many people with trauma come from Syria.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah. You were talking about the authors.
Yeah, so the other two authors, the first one is Patrice L. Weiss. She is an occupational therapist, also PhD in the Department of OT at the University of Haifa, and she does a lot of stuff with VR and telehealth. Then the last author is Rachel Kizony. She's an OT, PhD, Department of OT, University of Haifa. She's also at the Center for Advanced Tech and Rehab, the Sheba Medical Center, and she works with Dr. Weiss on VR rehab research.
Yeah, Sheba is Tel Shomer. They're the same hospital. It's just Sheba is the name of the first manager of the hospital.
I see.
The first head of the hospital name was Chaim Sheba, and that's why it's after him.
We're going to start with the introduction. Everyone, regardless of age, is more likely to ignore visual cues from the environment while texting, and phone-related injuries in the United States are on the rise. I think the phrase they used was dramatically rising.
I can understand that, yes. By the way, fun fact, I don't know how fun it is, but the amount of people that come to the ER with falling on an outreach arm...
Fushing?
Yeah, fushing. Yeah. Has decreased, and the amount of people that come like when their hand is in flexion,
like they're holding a phone
and trying not to hurt the phone, Now, between hurting your phone and your face, and I'm not just saying it because, some faces are,
Whoa.
but most faces are better to have than a phone.
Most.
So
You're feeling saucy today, aren't you?
I just, it's the subject that you're saying right now is close to my heart.
Why?
I had a patient that she was young. It was a long time ago. She got hit by a truck because she was texting while crossing the street.
Yeah.
And I just feel a lot of times I'm tempted to answer an email or because you feel like now I have the time.
Yeah. Like this in transit time is going to be useful.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, texting when walking is a disaster waiting to happen.
And happening.
Yeah.
All right. So research has shown that texting while walking can lead to lowered gait speed. It alters the spatiotemporal stability in walking and increases cautious obstacle avoidance behavior and reduces texting performance. And so they say there's some sort of mutual interference where like doing both of them at the same time makes you worse at both of them.
Exactly.
Which makes sense. Our divided attention.
Because none of them gets your full attention.
Right. So increased external distractions further impair the ability to text, but not walk in young adults. So walking in general is more important in more distracting environments, we've found. The ability to shift your attention from the phone to the environment is a really critical skill in texting while walking, which this ability appears to decline with age. So what we would expect to happen is as the distractions in the environment increase, the walking and the texting performance will decrease in older adults more than it would in younger adults.
Yes.
That's what we expect.
One more thing, because I'm dyslexic, I can multitask a lot of things. Writing and reading is not one of them.
Yeah, so you're not in danger of texting while walking and getting hit by a truck.
It's just that like I'm already bad at I do the voice text. You've heard me do it many times where people just see me talking to myself in the middle of the day.
She just sounds like a robot. She's like, "Can you meet me here, period?" And it's just weird.
It's not period, I use comma.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's weird to put period in the end of.
I've heard that too.
I heard it sounds very aggressive.
I know, but then I always put an emoji afterwards, so you know it's not aggressive.
Some emojis are aggressive.
Hearts, a happy octopus celebrating. If you're an Android user, I don't know what it looks like on iPhone. So talking while walking demonstrates an increased risk of falling in older adults, and even more if they have Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's. This is just talking, not even texting.
Oh, not texting, because I thought you
talking
said
while
texting.
Walking.
And I'm like, come on, you already have Parkinson's.
And you're texting while walking.
Your tremor is gonna really like mess up the text and make you fall.
Talking while walking. All right, so then they talk about the state of the evidence. So there have been studies on older adults and looking at their what happens to them as they text while walk. There are 3 different studies, and they all have conflicting results. So 2 of the studies looked at young and older adults, and they showed similar walking changes while texting. And 1 showed older adults that had greater changes in their walking performance while texting than the younger. So we don't really have an idea from the current state of the evidence. They've brought up technology to address the distraction of texting and integrating something called mixed reality solutions, which is like augmented reality, kind of like Pokemon Go, where you have the background and like it's augmented so that the things are on the screen, but you can see the background through it.
It's like a layered.
Yeah. So it integrates the environment with the distraction that you're concerned about, or it displays it in an environment beneath the text on the phone. So there are actually apps currently available right now that do this. One is called Type While Walk or Type and Walk, and they're available on Google or Apple. They don't know the effects of these solutions on walking, and they don't know if it varies by age. So there's been no research done on this mixed reality solution to attention and texting while walking.
Now is my time to say, even though I didn't read research about it, but you said that there is no research with results, don't use it. Just don't text and walk. It's the same. If your kid told you, hey, yeah, I'll text and drive, but there's a great app for it. No, don't, just how much do you walk? Let's just, or use the voice to text.
I mean, these are all interesting solutions by Tolly. All right.
Did not use it? Well, it's not that interesting. It's just very self-exclamatory. Don't use the...
They address that actually in their discussion.
Okay, fine.
So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. So then this study's aim, the main aims are to evaluate age-related differences in texting while walking performance. So they wanted to look at the effect of the environment on texting and walking dual task performance in young and older adults. And they also wanted to look at mixed reality technology on texting and walking dual task performance in young and older adults. The secondary aim was to evaluate the relationship between texting while walking performance and functional mobility, visual motor scanning, and cognitive flexibility in young and older adults. So their hypotheses are that older adults will have greater interference between walking and texting, and that this effect will be stronger when walking in more distracting conditions, and mixed reality will decrease dual task costs in both gait and texting, and that texting while walking performance will be associated with participants' functional mobility, visual motor scanning, and cognitive flexibility.
So methods. Tell me about the methods.
So there were a total of 50 participants, 30 age 18 to 40 and 20 age 65 to 80. All these older adults had a MoCA score of 19 or greater.
Cool.
All of these participants must own a smartphone and use it for texting for more than 1 year. And they excluded people with ortho or neuro impairments affecting locomotion, pain while walking, Alzheimer's disease, uncorrected visual or hearing impairment, and an inability to text and read while walking. So the instruments that they use, they had a demographic questionnaire with information about mobile phone use. They have these specific sensors that they talk about on the shanks and lumbar spine, and the walking kinematics were recorded with a GoPro on their sternum. So they had little cameras facing forward. The smartphone was a Samsung Galaxy S4 with a custom app, and the task was 3-word sentences in Hebrew, such as, I ate pizza, or it's cold today. How do you say that in Hebrew, Tali?
It's sentences with 2 words.
I ate pizza.
Achalti pizza. Achalti has both the ani, which is I, and ate. So it's 1 word that says I ate.
Interesting. Wait, what about it's cold today?
Karayom.
That's, oh my gosh. What? They said 3-word sentences.
Oh, it could be that they said 3-word sentences?
Yep, they said 3-word sentences in Hebrew.
Then yeah, it could be 3 words. You can make it into 3 words.
Oh, they're like contractions or something?
Yeah, like ani achalti pizza.
Oh, that's...
Which is I ate
pizza.
Pizza.
Pizza in Hebrew is pizza?
Yes.
Yo, I speak Hebrew. Pizza.
I'll just call and ask.
Yeah, you should. You're probably friends with these people anyway. So these 3-word sentences in Hebrew appeared at the top of the screen, and the user would have to write them as quickly and accurately as possible. They had similar and random sentences, and in the mixed reality setting, the background of the text was the front camera's input stream, kind of like that Pokemon Go thing we were talking about. And the non-mixed reality was a black background. The functional ability tests that they used were the tug with cognitive task of serial subtraction by 3s, or the tug-C. The trail making test, both parts A and B, and the MoCA. Then they asked with a visual analog scale, which tasks required more attention, walking or texting? How helpful was the background display? Not at all or a lot. And larger values indicate a greater attention to texting and a more favorable view of a mixed reality display. That was the instruments that they used. Did that answer your questions?
So we had the MoCA, we had A and B of the trail making test, we had tug and dual task tug.
Mm-hmm. And then they had sensors for gait mechanics.
Yeah, they had those. Okay.
Cool. So the procedure was a single 1-hour session in 2 different environments. And each of these environments had 30 meters blocked off with cones, and they just walked around the cones.
Around the cones? Okay.
Mm-hmm. One of the environments was a quiet, well-lit, flat university corridor. The other environment, it was a roofed outdoor flat university walkway with shops and bus stops all around. So that was like the distracting outdoor environment.
Which I think is cool because they found a way to do both the distracting environment but a safe environment.
Yep.
So it's pretty cool.
It's clever, yeah. Each environment had 4 tasks, and each task took 1 minute. And they were all randomized, and the order that they performed it indoors was the same order that they performed it outdoors. The first was texting while standing. The second was walking while holding the mobile phone. The third was texting while walking. And the fourth was texting while walking with mixed reality display. So in the texting trials, instructions were to perform both tasks as best as you can to prevent prioritization instead of like text as well as you can or walk as well as you can. And then they also recorded the maximum tapping speed, and it was evaluated by asking participants to tap on a single key as fast as they could. So that was the procedure. Then the data analysis, they used the GoPro footage to identify the level of crowdedness from 0 to 2. 0 is not crowded, 1 is somewhat crowded, and 2 is very crowded. I don't know how they differentiated, but, do what you can.
I'm interested to see if younger people thought about the place not as crowded as the older people.
So it wasn't the subjects determining the crowdedness of the area. It was actually graduate students.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The measures of walking performance that they used were gait speed, stride time and length, variability of stride time and length, and it was all analyzed using MATLAB, and they discarded turns, and the stats work out. The measures of texting performance were the mean texting speed, which was characters per minute, including spaces, texting accuracy, which they use this thing called the Levenshtein Distance, which is the number of single character edits, which means like insertions, deletions, and substitutions. So the number of single character edits required to match the typed text to the presented text. So it's like, how many mistakes did you make before you got it right?
Yeah, how many corrections you made before you done it right, not mistakes. How many corrections?
Yeah. So a link to the Wikipedia page on the Levenshtein Distance will be in the show notes.
Or Levenshtein.
Levenshtein. So then they looked at dual task costs, or DTCs, of gait and texting variables, and this was calculated by using the numbers of single task performance and dual task performances and quantifying their difference and putting it on a percentage. So a higher score means a worse performance. Okay, and then the normality of the data was assessed, and if there was non-normally distributed variation, they did non-parametric tests, and they did Spearman-Rowe for correlations in DTCs. So, would you like to know the results?
No, I'm fine. No, let's do just an episode with just the methods and the background. People don't want the results, really. Let them. The results are what I feel the results are.
Get out. All right. So in the young adults, half were male, half were female. In the older adults, 7 were male and 13 were female. No one experienced discomfort, and the outdoor environment was more crowded than the indoor environment for both age groups. And that p-value is less than 0.001.
Okay.
Results differentiated by age group. So the young adults, in general, use their mobile phones more frequently and use different features of the mobile phones more than the older adults. That was due to the demographics questionnaire with the mobile phone data use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They texted more frequently, and they were more likely to use their phone while walking. And what they found was that the younger adults had a larger stride length during outdoor single task than during indoor single task.
I understand that because it's the difference between how I walk at home or even from my apartment to the elevator or how I walk in the streets.
That's true. I'm like racing everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So older adults in general took more time to complete the tug cognitive, and the trail making test part A.
Nothing surprising.
Well, older adults and younger adults had similar times for trail making test part B.
Younger adults were faster at part A, but at part B, younger adults and older adults were kind of the same.
Yep. Older adults had a lower maximum tapping speed, a slower texting speed, and were less accurate in their typing during dual tasking, especially when outdoors. They walked more slowly due to shorter stride lengths, but not due to stride time. And there was more variability in stride time and stride length during indoor and outdoor dual tasking. Additionally, their gait speed and stride time, DTCs, remember DTCs are dual task costs, or the difference between single task and dual task. The gait speed and stride time DCTs were larger outdoors than indoors, so they found that the environment influenced the gait speed in older adults. The things that were similar between younger and older adults, they demonstrated the same number of strides, but the strides varied by condition for both. They had the same prioritization of texting over walking. They had the same dual task costs for gait indoors, and the same dual task costs for texting speed and accuracy indoors or outdoors. So they had a lot more in common than we were expecting.
Okay, and did they say which one they prioritized, the texting or the walking?
It said texting. Yeah, which is interesting.
It's interesting, but also I can understand it because walking is an automatic action. It's a function that is embedded in more than our cortex, and we don't really need to think about it. We do need to be safe and, and be aware, but we don't need to think about it in order to walk. However, as opposed to texting, which is involves both motor and language and other parts of the brain. So I do understand why it was prioritized, because for that I do need more cognitive resource.
Yeah.
For texting, we do need more resources.
True. All right, so then the effect of tasking on gait variables, they found that the gait speed was slower when they were dual tasking. This was both for young and older adults.
Mm-hmm.
That decreased the stride length and increased the stride time for both, approximately the same amount. The effect of tasking on texting variables, texting speed decreased when dual tasking. There was no interaction with age in the environment when it came to texting variables, which I thought was interesting, because they were expecting the more distracting environments to show a greater effect on the texting performance. But that wasn't the case in the older adults.
Yeah, so apparently I think maybe texting is distracting enough.
Maybe. Or actually, one of the limitations they say in the discussion is that they think that the environment may not have been distracting enough.
Oh, okay, that might be it. Yeah, maybe they think to themselves, oh, it's safe anyhow, so I don't really need to pay attention.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe texting is distracting enough, because that's the point. When you do text, you don't notice your environment, no matter if it's indoors or outdoors.
Yeah, it's a good thought. They found no difference between texting while walking and texting while walking with the mixed reality. So the mixed reality didn't do anything at all. So the subjective effect of the mixed reality display was that it was not useful in younger adults, and it was especially not useful for older adults. So the older adults just disliked it more. They didn't even pay attention to it as much as the younger adults did. So, but it didn't affect any of the parameters of their performance. They just didn't like it.
I love the wording of, it was not useful in young adults, but even more not useful.
Especially not useful.
Especially not useful.
Yeah. So then factors that were associated with texting while walking performance. They said performance on cognitive tasks correlated with gait speed and stride length indoors, as well as stride time indoors and outdoors. They found that the MoCA is not associated with gait or texting changes in texting while walking.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much for the big results. They actually have a lot of lovely tables. Like if you're interested in a very particular parameter with texting while walking and older versus younger, they have everything spelled out really nicely. We don't really have time to go through all of them.
Well, I wonder what would have happened. So you said that they gave them 2 sentences with 3 or 2 words, right?
It was more than 2 sentences. Those were just the 2 examples. And they were supposed to be 3-word sentences.
Because I wonder what the results would have been if it was answering a text.
Right.
That's what happens when most people walk and text. They are answering something like, hey, is 4 o'clock okay? Or how are you doing today? And you're answering, hi, mom, everything is okay.
Exactly. Because I mean, you're just repeating a sentence that you see is really not the same thing. Like motor-wise, yes, but cognitively, it's a different task. Mm-hmm. I think not entirely, but I really think it's a very different task.
It is a different task.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a really good observation. I'm glad you pointed that out. So in the discussion, they talk about how mutual interference between texting and walking is related to the age and environment. Older adults had larger dual task costs of gait and texting when outdoors, and they had increased gait variability. And actually, the graphs that they show, like it shows the gait variability between the different setups and like younger and older. And the younger adults, like nice straight line. And then in the older adults, like nice straight line, a little fuzzy line.
Just the variability is a lot larger.
Yeah, when you add more tasks. The mixed reality display didn't modify performance in any group, like we said.
It was not useful.
No. It didn't harm or hurt. It just annoyed. So then they go on to talk about how texting while walking could potentially be used as an assessment or intervention tool. It's previously been shown to be feasible in older adults and people with Parkinson's disease in evaluating dual task performance. Specifically in Parkinson's disease, texting tasks can be comparable to cognitive tasks during gait, and it can be used to assess dual task performance in clinical environments. An increased gait variability during dual tasking walking is associated with decreased gait stability and increased fall risk, so this could be a really useful tool for us to use. So then they state that, I didn't like this phrase that they said. They said, older adults who, quote, are less avid users of technology may prioritize speed over accuracy due to their poor skill level in texting. I wasn't sure about that.
Why? It's not that they're saying all older adults are less savvy. They're saying older adults are less savvy.
But why are they prioritizing speed over accuracy? Like, if you have a poorer level of skill at something, wouldn't you slow down to do better?
No, because sometimes I, for example, have less skills in texting or in in written language. So when I text, if there are mistakes, I usually don't correct them and assume that the person is going to understand that I meant. I was gonna say that I meant pizza and not pita, but it's not this, that I meant see you later and not see you later.
I see. Okay. Oh, that's a really good point, because I had a really hard time wrapping my head around that, but that's really helpful. Like, you kind of assume that the audience that you're sending this to understands your skill level, and you just want to get it to them ASAP.
That is one thing, which is I can only speak subjectively, and that's what I did. But the other thing is that, especially when there's a multitask, you try to get the text as fast as you can.
So you can
you're
switch
also
back.
doing something else. Exactly.
Oh, that's really helpful.
I see it with people. And whatever you do, don't text and drive. Really, it's like I think
if you learn one thing,
I think it's killed more people than driving while under the influence.
Maybe, I don't know.
But I see people that are trying to text and drive, and they're doing it really fast, thinking that nothing happened.
Not safe. Don't do it. Just don't take the risk. So they then go on to talk about how the mixed reality wasn't very helpful, but they suggest that maybe it just wasn't integrated enough with the environment and with the interface that you're working with. So they suggest something like Google Glass would be different because it's part of your reality. Whereas with that mixed reality setting, it's just on the phone and you still have to look up and around. Whereas with something like Google Glass, which I don't even know if it exists anymore, you're already looking around. So although older adults found it less helpful, it didn't demonstrate gait or texting performance decrements, which may indicate that the ability to tune out distractions may actually be better in older adults than we previously thought. It didn't hurt them. It's good. So limitations that, like we said earlier, maybe the outdoor environment wasn't distracting enough because there was no effect that we saw in reduced performance in the outdoor environments. They looked at healthy older adults and they didn't ask about fall history. So this is not generalizable to a lot of the people that we work with. They also did not monitor the gaze of the participant. So when they were looking at their phone versus when they were looking up, they didn't take note of that. So in conclusion, older adults pay an additional price in gait variability in texting while walking, especially while outdoors. And that's variability. That's not reduced performance. Texting while walking is common, and it's a bit unrealistic to demand that everyone stops doing it. So we should try our best to understand what's happening and how to make it safer for everyone. And that's pretty much what I have. Any thoughts, feelings?
Did they ask the participants how often they text and walk?
I think they did, or they didn't publish anything about the questionnaire that they gave them about mobile phone usage, but they did have information the younger people spent more time texting.
Yeah, that you said, but what about in general, do younger people text and walk less or more than older people?
That's a really good question. Let me look really quick in the paper and see if...
Another thing, which I didn't like the last phrase you said about that it's unrealistic to demand people not to do it.
I know you didn't.
It just, again, I've been working in hospitals for long enough to know that people do stupid things because everybody's doing it. And it costs them, if not their life, their quality of life.
So they asked if they use their smartphone for calls and text messages, text messages, and internet, the number of texts a person sent per day, the use of phone while walking, and it talks about the different percentages of walk time, if they've ever stumbled or fallen while using their phone, if yes, how often, and then other scores.
Okay.
So those are the questions they asked.
All right.
Cool. So
yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you. It was a great article.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think someone posted it on the group and I thought it was really interesting. So I thought we should do an episode about it.
Good job, whoever you are. It was really interesting.
Well, thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of SR Prereqs. And if you are interested in helping us do the things that we do, please consider becoming a game changer. You get free things and you get special access to the Facebook group.
Yes. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Talia Spaceman.
And I'm Erin Carey.
And this is SR Prereqs. And as always, have fun.
Stay funky.